Hey everyone! Welcome to Advanced Livestream Monday Afternoon Livestream. I'm Peter and I'm joined this week by...
John, friends, it's great to be back.
Good to have you back, John. Always a pleasure. This week we are getting a little serious. Sometimes we like to keep it light here, talk about food or talk about our hobbies. But this week we're going to get a little bit serious and talk about managing conflict.
Ooh, can we just go back to talking about food?
Oh, I'd love to. But we'll get into a conflict about what kind of foods we like. So conflict, you see, is everywhere. It crops up on a big scale or on a small scale. Today we're going to be talking about it sort of on a medium scale. And we start, of course, with our poll question.
Steve, hello.
Hey, Steve. Always good to see you. Our poll question is, how often do you find yourself in a conflict?
Ooh.
Once a month or more? Every couple of months? A few times a year? Or once a year or less? Like John and I were talking earlier about how it kind of depends how you define conflict. You know, we all have little irritations that we have sort of on a daily basis sometimes with people. But conflict, we're not necessarily talking about the kind of conflict that like ends a relationship completely. Again, it's somewhere between the two. John, how often would you say you find yourself in a conflict?
Pretty frequently, but it depends how you define it.
Yes.
Almost daily. I have 3 little kids, and so I would say that we are almost every day in some kind of a conflict of desires, right? Depending on your work too, if you do something that's very collaborative and high pressure, it's likely you might run into conflict daily. And so the real question is, what do you do? What is happening in your heart during the conflict? Because conflict, they say conflict is inevitable in certain scenarios. But we've got some really great vocab here to teach
Yes, we
about
have some
conflict.
good vocab words to teach you, which might even give you a little help in thinking about how to manage conflict. First, as always, a little plug. This comes from your Advanced magazine for December.
Yes.
There's an article this week, a newsworthy article about monkeys on the island of Puerto Rico off the coast of the United States. A hurricane came through the island, damaged a lot of the natural resources, knocked down a lot of trees. Scientists thought, oh, the monkeys, the native population of monkeys, they're all going to be at each other's heads fighting over the resources. Instead, the opposite happened.
Oh, they got along.
They got along. They formed closer bonds. They took care of each other because they realized there were fewer resources. It didn't lead to more conflict. So instead it led to more social cohesion, more community. So maybe that's one way to manage conflict is take away the resources that you all have to deal with and see if that doesn't bring out a more peaceful side to you.
It's actually a really important point because when you, depending on your perspective, if a small conflict is the biggest thing in the world for you, it's hard to let go. But if it's not a big deal, it's easier to let go of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's perspective.
Absolutely.
But why does conflict happen, Peter?
Yeah, well, conflict happens. Great question, John. Why does conflict happen? It happens for many reasons, of course, and we don't want to make it sound like this is easily tied up in just a 15-minute live stream.
Hi,
but
Esther.
A good vocab word for understanding the roots of conflict is our first word, incompatible.
Incompatible. So
Big, long word.
means not, C-O-M means with, right? Like a company or a companion. So not with, atable, like not able to be put together.
Not
basically.
able to be put together, not able to work together, not able to sort of exist in the same space. Your ideas are incompatible. Your approach to something is incompatible.
Steve, by the way, says he puts his head down, or he focuses first on the work he needs to do, which I think is good advice, because he doesn't have time. He doesn't have so much time to listen to people complaining. He thinks it's a waste of time.
Right.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying there, Steve.
Definitely, Steve. However, you may find conflict will find you out eventually, sooner or later. So Steve advocates a good approach here, definitely. Don't go looking for conflict.
Yeah, avoid conflict.
Yeah.
But so when two ideas, let's say, are incompatible, that often creates more than just an intellectual disagreement, right? There's often these feelings, and sometimes we call this negative feeling, resentment. Have you heard the word resentment before?
That's another vocab word
so,
for us.
Use it in a sentence.
Yes.
Stop squabbling. There's a really good one.
Yeah, joshing. Good thought. Stop squabbling. Good vocab too. Squabble means an argument that is really kind of more about emotion and ego rather than substantive issues.
Yes.
You know, if someone is, they're just squabbling about something, it's not really a serious debate about the issue.
You'll see that word for the studio classroom students. We're teaching squabbling in a couple months.
Oh, we are?
Yeah,
that's great.
It's a really good term.
Great.
Okay, so
quick note though, just on that word resentment, maybe you saw it with the parentheses around the ment. That's just to give you both the verb and the noun form. Resentment is the noun form, but to resent someone. You don't resentment someone, you resent them, or you feel resentful towards them.
Now, conflict isn't always between two people. Joy says, "Can I eat one more bite? I'm on a diet. It's my daily conflict," right? There can be an internal, we call that an internal conflict, something that happens inside.
Great point, Joy. Sometimes the conflict is entirely within our own hearts, within our own minds. So
I'm there with you, sister.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happens when there's a conflict? Well, people, we say they reach an impasse.
Right.
Impasse is IMPASSE. So that little E, I believe, means it's from French, perhaps, originally.
Yes, it
but
is.
An impasse is what?
Right, to reach an impasse is, earthquake. No, it's just our camera bumped a little bit. But we're okay, you're okay. The word impasse we're talking about, when you reach an impasse, that's when you cannot pass, you cannot go forward with something because the conflict has become so serious, so unresolvable that no progress is possible. Emotional progress, practical progress, physical progress, you are at an impasse and things are just halted.
That's right. It really reminds me of two people trying to cross a bridge at the same time and there's no room. So someone needs to backtrack or kind of go back for the other person to go forward. So this takes a lot of grace, right, to get past an impasse.
Right.
And so there are different methods for avoiding conflict. One of them is simply to avert. And as you say there, we are at an impasse.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Joshing, exactly. We are at an impasse. Avert. Now this is a word sort of talking about an approach we might take to conflict, and avert simply means the same thing as another AV word. What's that word?
Basically are you thinking of avoid?
I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Very
it's a similar meaning, right?
Yeah.
Like basically to change the direction of something or to turn something away. To avert.
Right.
And
Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Deadlock.
Yeah.
Great word, synonymous with impasse. To be deadlocked is just no foot, locked in your positions, unable to move forward, dead, no life.
No movement, We're locked in a deadlock.
Right.
So there are different ways to avoid conflict. One of them is to avert.
Yeah, avert the conflict altogether. Some conflicts are not worth fighting for. You know, there's a phrase in English, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah,
pick your battles. And sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, as they say, which means avoid the conflict. Don't seek to fight each and every conflict. Avert it, because this leads us to another vocab word, and then we'll give you a discussion question to chew on for a little bit. But what you never want to do in a conflict situation, this is the poison word, escalate. escalate. You might know it from escalator that we have in the malls, that we have in the MRT stations. But escalate is the verb. And in a conflict situation, what does escalate mean?
If you escalate a conflict, it means you make it more intense. The word inside there is scale, right? A scale is a series of steps, typically like a musical scale or a scale where you're weighing the heaviness of something. But to escalate means to basically make it level up in intensity.
Right. To make it more deadlocked, if such a thing were possible. To get the tempers even more riled up. And the volume starts to go up.
Just like escalator.
Yes.
Exactly.
Escalate.
It's connected.
Great.
Escalate would just be the verb form within there.
Right. So that's what you don't want to do. Whatever you do, whatever approach you might take to conflict, whether you avoid it or meet it head on, you don't want to escalate.
Yeah. So what else can you do? Sometimes people accommodate.
Right.
To accommodate means Yeah, to allow the thinking, or basically to make someone else comfortable in a way, or at home, really, to accommodate, to make someone have a place for their thinking.
Steve says, I avert my project when I was in my research institute because of my classmates giving me conflicts by turning my great idea into worse. I'm sorry to hear
there
about
you go.
that,
Enjoy.
Steve.
Excellent. The conflict in the Middle East is escalating, it seems, in ways. Find a common ground. Well, there you go. Yeah, that would find a common ground is in some ways to accommodate. But finding a common ground is really good.
Yeah.
Be more amicable, like friendly. Don't argue.
Good word, amicable.
Interesting.
Being, able to be, being friendly. Amicable is basically what it means. And you guys have anticipated our discussion question, so good for you. We'll give it to you now anyway. What tip can you share for managing conflict? Out of your own experience, what has worked for you in managing conflict? Chew on that. Let us know your responses in the comments section.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. So one thing that makes conflicts very difficult to resolve is the fact that we often carry or bear grudges, right? Have you ever borne a grudge against somebody? Kate, you make some good advice. Try to negotiate, to go back and forth and find a solution.
And that's going to lead us to another good vocab word in just a second. Let's just wrap up grudge here. The importance of grudge. A grudge, you've heard that expression, you hold a grudge. It means you're not able to let go of something in the past. With this relationship you have, with this person you have, they did something to you, maybe deliberately, maybe not deliberately, but you are not able to let go of it. You carry it around still to this day, and it affects how you deal with that person. We call that a grudge. And in conflict management, you want to be able to, hard as it can be, to put aside that grudge so that you can look at the problem from a neutral perspective with fresh eyes and not still be thinking, oh, they did this to me, they did this to me. Yeah. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy.
Because we tend to do something called nursing a grudge. That would be a good English phrase, to nurse a grudge. Esther gives some good advice. Try to listen. Good advice.
Try to listen to others first, right?
But nursing would be something you do to a baby, right? You'd give it milk. A nurse is someone that takes care of sick patients. So if you're nursing a grudge, instead of trying to let it die, you feed it in your own heart. Yeah. So there's a phrase from the Proverbs in the Bible that says, love seeks to cover an offense. Like, if you really love someone deeply, you're trying to find that solution actively. But if you're nursing a grudge, sometimes it implies you're not really trying to fix the solution or forgive the person. Rather, you're just trying to keep the resentment fresh.
Yeah, there's a similar phrase to nursing a grudge while we're on it, licking your wounds.
To lick one's wounds if you were hurt by someone.
Right, is sort of to just keep focusing on the wound, and as a wound should receive some attention, of course you want it to heal, but to lick one's wounds, it's the same as nursing a grudge. It means to just concentrate on the wound and nothing else about the person.
Sometimes we even say nurse a complaint, but Daisy, you say, Agatha, first of all, you say, leave the scene, get out of there, take a deep breath, deal with the issue after calming down. Yeah, I think that's generally really good advice. If you have time to walk away, Right. But your tip, Daisy, is to stay calm, organize your thoughts, and convey your ideas to others. Also, very good advice. And then Steve says, treat them to dinner, enjoy a great buffet by talking about positive things and sharing a great experience together. You know what? I love Steve's approach. Steve, I hope I'm in conflict with you so that you can take me to a buffet.
Yeah, no, Steve, that's a good example of accommodation.
Yeah.
That is the accommodation approach to managing conflict, and it can be useful, sometimes not. Sometimes, you need to be more firm and not accommodate in that way, but sometimes you do. So it depends on the nature of the conflict.
It really does, and your motive. Like, what is your motive, your reason underneath? Joy, you say try to reach a win-win solution. Yes, great vocab. And then be unflappable. That's a good one. Unflappable means unable to be sort of moved. If you imagine a flag, it kind of moves in the wind. But if someone is unflappable, or you could say their feathers are never ruffled.
Oh, I thought unflappable means I can't flap my arms and fly to the moon because I'm not a bird.
Unflappable. Yeah, but it basically means you won't be just pushed around by someone's comments.
Right.
So that's a really good pre-conflict Yeah, that's a good thing to practice before you get in conflict.
Definitely. And Agatha's suggestion, we talked about how Steve's suggestion is an example of accommodate. Agatha's suggestion about leaving the scene, taking a deep breath, that can be a form of averting a conflict. Averting is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes averting, or another word, disengage. Sometimes you can see that maybe right now is just not the time to work out this conflict.
Yeah.
And you both need to just, like you say, Agatha, leave the scene, take a deep breath, just tell the person, let's cool off for a moment, go off in our own spaces. And, maybe that moment lasts a few minutes, maybe it lasts a few days. But sometimes averting conflict can be good in the larger picture.
Yeah, it definitely, depending on the relationship. And
Steve likes Agatha's tip. We do too, Steve.
We do. There's one more word here that you probably know, just a review, to brainstorm a solution.
Yes, brainstorm.
You've heard that, right? To brainstorm,
wonderful word.
To think collectively,
right,
and put your brains together, get the electricity going, so to speak.
Right.
And
brainstorm, you think, that's like a thunderstorm in my mind.
Yeah.
And it is kind of that, it's the energy of that, but it's energy put to positive use. To brainstorm is not a bad thing. It's like you were saying, the electricity of a thunderstorm is what's going on in your brain. When you're brainstorming, you're really thinking about something, really focusing on something, and that is what you ultimately want to do at some point to manage a conflict, is to brainstorm how you can reach a win-win situation.
That's right, friends. I hope that we've all learned some good tips today that it can help us in any conflicts that might be in our lives. There's a verse from the Bible that says, whoever is looking for love tries to cover over an offense. So if your motive is to love people, I think conflict management will be easier, and these solutions become more easily they are easier to activate.
Yes. No, it certainly helps to have that foundation when you approach a conflict. One more word for you, and then we're done for this week, and that word is mediate. John, what does mediate mean?
Media means in the middle, right? Like the size medium is between large and small. So if someone is a mediator who is mediating, it means they're in the middle trying to help two parties agree. It can be difficult to be a mediator.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult.
It's challenging. Yeah. So. Just ask anyone who's tried to get peace in the Middle East about how easy it is to be a mediator. Yeah. And yet, still, sometimes that is what it takes to manage a conflict, is a third person. Not the two of you, but a third person who can look at you both, without any grudge in their background, and see things that maybe you don't see, and help you find a solution through that conflict.
Median, the median would be the center line, oftentimes between two lanes of traffic, or the average. I guess median in mathematics is like the middle number in a spread of numbers.
That MED,
correct me if I'm wrong,
prefix comes up in a lot. Mediocre. To something that is mediocre is not terrible, but it's not great either. It's just in the middle.
Hi,
like
orange. Orange,
Orange.
Just don't escalate the conflict. Orange, I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying.
Yeah.
For the most part, there might be a time to speak, but typically that's a safe route. Joy, always try to be a mediator. Steve, you're at brainstorming to keep your drawing skills sharper and better. Well, friends, that's all the time we have for today. We hope you will join us next time. Come see Peter and I at our Christmas rally, either online, we have a live stream that will be posted on the channel, I believe, or come to one of our many shows. We'll put some of the information here. We're going to be performing the Christmas show this Saturday at TICC, right near Taipei 101. There's a 2:30 show, there's a 7:30 show. It should be a lot of fun. For those of you who love Christmas, it'll be fun.
John, you can see on stage. Me, you'll see off stage doing a live stream of the evening show.
Yeah, so it'll be easy to see Peter if you can make it. And please do come. It's fun for everybody. Bring your friends. Tickets are free, so just sign up. Make sure you sign up in advance. And then next weekend, so that will be the 21st, I believe, and 22nd, Saturday, Sunday, there are performances at Chungcheong Hall in... Excuse me. We've got 2 more performances. We'll put the information down below. If you miss it this weekend, which is the best time to see it, you can see it at some local churches, and it should be even better by then because we'll have practiced our dancing.
Yeah, they'll know what they're doing by that time. I'm joking, of course. They already know what they're doing. It's going to be great. Hope to see you guys there, and we'll see you next Monday right back here for the live stream. Till then, have a great week, y'all.
Goodbye, friends.
Bye-bye.